This morning's keynote is being sponsored by CourseSmart. We're very lucky to have them as a sponsor this year. And their CEO, Sean Devine, would like to say a few words before the keynote address. So please help me welcome Sean Devine.
Thanks, Jeff. Everybody enjoyed the event last night, I hope. I didn't see any compromising photos on the montage, but I know it was an enjoyable event. We're from CourseSmart, and we're proud to be sponsoring this conference as Diamond sponsors. And we're also especially proud to be sponsoring this morning's keynote address by Jim Carroll, one of the world's leading futurists and experts on innovation. But before we get to that, CourseSmart has an important announcement to make. But before we share that with you, we'd like to share a couple of thoughts about the conference. First off, I was especially moved yesterday by Ben Stein's remarks at the end when he talked about equating the mission of our military to the mission of us in education. And I'll tell you, I have firsthand knowledge about the mission of the military. I have a son who's a captain in the U.S. Marine Corps, and he's been deployed to Iraq twice. And I can tell you, he has a family, and I understand what his family is going through and what the military families go through in that very, very important mission. But then I also think I've been involved in education publishing my entire career. And Ben Stein's remarks yesterday were particularly moving to me when he equated the two missions. And it's crystal clear to me that our mission is, as important as the other mission in preserving the freedom of the world and moving this world forward. So before I go any further, I'd like to congratulate the e-college team, the Pearson e-college team, happens to be a sister company of ours, and also congratulate all of you who are here for what you do and what you've done at this conference. It's especially moving, and I was particularly moved by what I've seen here. So a round of applause for everybody here. Collaborate, innovate, and create. Those are the three themes of the conference, and it's not surprising to me that the Pearson team thought about innovation as being central to what we're doing here. And some of the things we do with technology and with innovation are pretty obvious, and they're especially important. Things like improving learning outcomes using technology, things like making sure that our students have adaptive ways to learn using technologies to fit their different learning styles. And those are the types of things that are themes of this particular conference. But there are some other things that we do with technology that aren't as obvious, but are particularly important or as important. One of those things is that the use of technology can certainly bring down the cost of accessing course materials. If you take certain costs out of the course material production process, the course material delivery process, if you use technology to do those types of things, one of the things that we accomplish is we make learning more affordable to students. To the extent you follow it, Student Monitor, which is a longitudinal study that's been going on for the last 20 years, tells us that 15% of students don't even buy their course materials. And the reason they don't buy their course materials, one of the principal reasons, is they can't afford it. So technology certainly brings down the cost of these course materials, and it certainly makes education more accessible to students. Another thing that's maybe not so obvious, all of you work in online learning, and many of you work in distance learning, and you're providing education to students who are far afield. They might be in places where they can't get access to course materials. They might have to wait weeks for a book to be delivered. They may not even be able to get to a bookstore. But technology certainly can help with the delivery of course materials so that that student who's in a far-flung place doesn't have to make the choice as to whether or not to get their course materials. They can get immediate access, certainly using technology delivery. And another thing that may not be so readily apparent is that course materials haven't been so accessible to students with disabilities. We have many, many students who have print disabilities who haven't been able to access course materials, and therefore their educational opportunities are compromised. So another thing that technology does is it brings better access to those students who might have print disabilities because they can use assistive technologies to be able to access materials, and they can compete in a way that they should in our world. We at CourseSmart think a lot about these types of things. We think about making educational materials more affordable. We think about making educational materials more accessible to those that can't get to them. And we think about making educational materials more easily able to be used by those who might have print disabilities. And we think those types of things are of equal importance, and in some instances greater importance, than some of the other things that are maybe more readily obvious around the use of technology as it relates to innovation in education. So I said we had an important announcement to make. We collaborate closely with Pearson College. It's a sister company of ours. And we announced yesterday that we have entered a collaboration with the e-college team on the Pearson Learning Studio platform to enable instructional designers, enable faculty members and instructors, and enable students to get immediate access to their course materials inside the Pearson Learning Studio's LMS. Now, why is that important? It's obviously important because more students will have access to materials that are more affordable. It's also important because instructional designers and students can access the technology they need and the course materials they need in the context of their learning environment inside the Learning Studio. And we also think it's important for the last reason I mentioned, that now these materials will be more readily available to those students who might not have previously been able to access them. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you. We're happy about being here as a sponsor of this conference and look forward to seeing you again next year. Thank you very much.
All right, you're in for a real treat this morning. If you don't